Welcome to EMC News on Lone Star Community Radio. We record live every Monday at noon from downtown Conroe. I'm your host, Margie Taylor. We hope to inform local residents of Porter, New Caney, and Splendora of the happenings with the Chamber, the New Caney and Splendora school districts, law enforcement, nonprofits that serve East Montgomery County, and local business, and of course the fire departments. Listen in every Monday at noon to learn more on Lone Star Community Radio. So my guests today are Fire Chief Carter Johnson of the Porter Fire Department and Jimmy Williams of the Montgomery County Fire Marshal. There's only one Montgomery County Fire Marshal. So before we invite them to come in and talk about what's going on, I want to give you a few updates. Last Friday was a memorial funeral for Sergeant Baumgartner, who was killed in a police chase on Father's Day. The candlelight vigil was in Patton Village Wednesday night with a huge show of support from the community. The funeral was held at the Woodlands Church with thousands in attendance for the service, a horse-drawn carriage that took the officer to the hearse, bagpipes, a 21-gun salute, and taps. The procession out to the gravesite in North Houston was an amazing display of respect, with cars pulled off on both sides of the highway for about 50 miles, with a motorcade of about 100 vehicles, starting with the motorcycles, the police vehicles, EMS, and fire trucks. And they all drove with their lights on to the gravesite. It gives me goosebumps to think about the respect that the large community showed for this. People were standing outside their vehicles and saluting on both sides of the highway and the on-ramps. It was quite amazing. And the young boy, Don Hilario, was honored for his short time with us at Splendora Junior High on Saturday at 5 o'clock. His teachers, counselor, and principal all spoke about what a difference the young boy made to them and other students with his cheerful demeanor and his can-do attitude. He started even a PE club in the mornings for kids to have fun and play a little bit together before classes started. This tribute was held at Splendora Junior High. And after the counselors and teachers spoke, the crowd grabbed some balloons and they gathered outside for a balloon release into the heavens. It was quite amazing to see all these blue balloons go up into the sky. Visitation will be tonight at Kashner Funeral Home from 5 to 8 p.m. And the funeral will be at 2 p.m. tomorrow at Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Conroe. They also have a GoFundMe set up for them. Sam's Club and Academy are still taking applications for their new Valley Ranch locations. As we have talked about in shows past, there's a lot of employment opportunities upcoming with the new Valley Ranch project. Besides Sam's Club and Academy, there's going to be Hobby Lobby and several restaurants. And that's also in Porter Fire District. So, Chief Carter maybe might be able to tell us a little bit about some things that they're planning ahead for the Valley Ranch community. Splendora offers a summer feeding program to anyone 1 to 18 at the high school through July 14th, Monday through Thursday, and that's breakfast and lunch. So anyone needing to eat that is 18 and under can get free meals. Lunch only is also served at the New Life Assembly of God in Patton Village and Heritage Park in Splendora. Oakley Elementary School in New Caney is also serving summer meals for kids. If you would like more information about those times, you can call 281-577-8690. What is a really neat thing I just found out is that New Caney ISD is going to have Wi-Fi on 20 of their school buses this fall. So the buses that are going to have the Wi-Fi, there's 20 of them, will be the activity buses that go on out-of-town trips, the early college buses, and additional buses with routes requiring students to be on the bus for a long duration of time. So a lot of these kids get the Chromebooks. So now they're going to be able to do their homework or other class projects while commuting for a period of time. So that's really a neat thing, I think. The volunteer recruitment class for the East Montgomery County Fire Department will be August 1st through November 16th, and it will meet every Monday and Wednesday from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. You must be 18, but upon completion, the certified people will be given the State Firefighter and Fire Marshal Association as an entry-level firefighter. So a few important dates to remember upcoming. This Sunday, July 3rd, will be the benefit and blood drive for Cody King at from 2 to 8 at Kingwood United Methodist Church on Woodland Hills Drive in Kingwood. Cody is the son of Will King, who's been a longtime volunteer firefighter for Splendora and now East Montgomery County. And he graduated recently from Splendora High School with his associate's degree. And he was awarded the honor of Eagle Scout a few weeks ago. And that evening, when he was awarded this honor, he became very lethargic and was taken to an emergency clinic. And he is now getting treatment at MD Anderson for a very rare form of leukemia that most people are around 65 when they get this strain. His dad, Will, is president of the East Montgomery County Firefighters Association. So we are hoping that the community rallies up for Cody King this Sunday, 2 to 8 at the Kingwood United Methodist Church. Free barbecue, give blood, and make a difference. The day after that, July 4th, is the Roman Forest Celebration and Craft Show. Now that starts at 9:30 with parade lineup at City Hall. There's going to be moonwalk, a dunking booth, vendors, and the public and the community at large is welcome to swim in the pool for $5 a person for the day. There's going to be ice cream, soda floats, and of course, the best fireworks around in East Montgomery County. They might be the only ones, I think, actually. But the East Montgomery County Fire Department has been putting this on for many years. So rally up and get excited and come out there. Most of the vendors and food trucks and other things will go on with a live band starting at 4 o'clock until dark. So, and then lastly, October 1st is going to be the Sawmill Festival. Now that is an annual event normally held in June, but because we know what June feels like, it is now moved to October 1st. There's going to be axe throwing, a lumberjack competition, tractor races, and live entertainment. There's going to be a lot more information coming up shortly, and if you are interested in participating as a vendor or entertainment or sponsorship, please go to the Greater East Montgomery County Chamber website to find out more information on that. East Montgomery County News is an hour-long talk show, Mondays from noon to 1, and you will find out everything that's happening out in East Montgomery County. We will be right back with my guests.
EMC News, your local news from EMC every Monday at noon on Lone Star Community Radio.
When medical emergencies happen, trust your best neighbors ever for extraordinary emergency care from board-certified physicians. Neighbors Emergency Center is making lives better by providing exceptional medical care for you and your family, 24/7, 365 days a year with little to no wait time. With Montgomery County locations in Porter and Kingwood, Neighbors Emergency Center is there for you. For more information on Neighbors Emergency Centers, please visit them online at nec24.com.
Want to know what's happening in East County? You're listening to EMC News on Lone Star Community Radio.
Hello, I'm Margie Taylor, and we are recording live at Lone Star Community Radio in downtown Conroe with EMC News. And my guests today in the studio with me are Fire Chief Carter Johnson of Porter Fire Department and Jimmy Williams, the Montgomery County Fire Marshal. Hi, guys.
Good afternoon.
So we have several things we want to talk about. Of course, the first thing that everybody's thinking about is fireworks and the upcoming holiday, and I know that's going to be a busy time, as both you guys are busy all the time. So it's not specific to just this holiday, but we will touch on that too. So, Chief, tell me, well, there's so many things we could talk about. You now have, we're having the Valley Ranch area. So how is that going to affect you with all the new stores coming in and restaurants, and I think they're planning an amphitheater and things like that? How does that reflect on the Porter Fire Department? Because that's in your district, right?
Correct. So the new Valley Ranch is expanding to carry heavy commercial and light commercial, and possibly even some large amphitheaters. So everybody keeps asking, where's the fire station going to go inside of Valley Ranch? We had some nice conversations with the people from the Signorelli Corporation, had a nice piece of land picked out, but we sat back and looked at the response times, and currently through 3 different fire stations, we have less than a 6-minute response into the Valley Ranch area. 2 from our fire stations in Porter, the one on 494 and then the one on Soldiers Road. And then through a county-wide mutual aid agreement, the East Montgomery County Fire Department has a quick response there also. So the Valley Ranch area is in a unique area where they're covered by 3 fire stations with under 6 minutes. So,
well, that's an optimum situation then.
That's a great,
as far as they're concerned.
Yes, they are in the great place to have multiple fire trucks coming from multiple different directions.
Okay, so you have ladder trucks then.
Correct. So in East Montgomery County, currently Porter Fire Department is the only department that has a ladder, and where we get that requirement from is the ISO, and they tell us anything over 3 stories or above.
Tell everybody what ISO means.
ISO is, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden on the
Jimmy?
Insurance
services.
Come on.
Yeah, insurance service organization. And they rate your commercial insurance and your homeowner's insurance. In Porter, because we have so many apartment complexes, we're actually required to have 2 ladder trucks. Currently, we only have 1, and through a mutual aid agreement with the city of Houston, we get partial credit for one of their ladder trucks based out of one of the Kingwood fire stations. And with the Signorelli Corporation doing the additional buildings, more likely we will have to have a 3rd ladder truck also.
Okay, because that kind of goes into the question I was going to ask you, if you have plans for additional fleets.
Yeah. Currently, we have a new engine on order. Lead time on those now are over 300 days. So we're planning now for almost a year in advance. Wow. In part of our area where the big issue is some of the neighborhoods in our area do not have fire hydrants. So we're having to shuttle the water in with us everywhere we go. So our new engine is going to be having 1,000 gallons worth of water on it, 1,500 GPM pump on it. And the key is there. It's the water. It gives us the amount of time to shuttle water back and forth. Your municipal fire trucks, like you would see inside the city of Houston, only typically carry about 500 gallons or 750, and we typically try to double that with the 1,000 gallons. So we bring our water with us.
That sounds great. So what is the size of your district?
So Porter Fire Department is actually Montgomery County Emergency Service District number 6. For those who do not know what an ESD is, it is a taxing body that taxes 10 cents on the home value of your house. So if you have a $250,000 house, you pay $250 in ESD taxes. And what that tax goes for is manpower, apparatus, the funding structure of the fire department. We use the name Porter Fire Department because most people would not know where Montgomery County ISD number 6 is. We cover 55 square miles. Last year we ran a little over 4,000 calls out of 3 manned fire stations. We do have a 4th fire station that is currently unmanned. Our main station on Loop 494 has a crew of 5, and this budget year we've been approved to start staffing that ladder truck. So we'll actually have dedicated people on the ladder truck. Our station on Soldiers Road has a dedicated crew of 4, and then our Porter Lane station also has a dedicated crew of 4. So, like I said, 55 square miles, a little over 4,000 calls last year, and we're on pace. We're a little over 200 calls year to date from previous year. So I believe we'll go well over the 4,000 mark this year.
Like, and that just led me into the next question: is what is your staffing like? So you're saying it's a 5-4-4.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So that's round the clock, right? 24/7.
24/7.
And then whatever volunteers you have.
Unfortunately, our volunteer basis has really ceased to exist. We have about 2 active volunteers, in our organization. Once we transition to paid, and unless you can really talk to volunteer and to stay at the station, the exciting part of the job that the volunteers get involved in, you really need to be at the station to get to do the actual initial incident response, and that takes away time from your family and the ability to earn additional money. So as a whole, as the United States, the volunteers are diminishing in your metro communities. Still in your rural areas, volunteers are strong, but we can't close a local hardware store anymore for people to go fight fires, or even the seniors used to be able to go leave school and go fight fires, and that day is just past us in our area.
Well, you also are part of the new Caney ISD. No, I'm sorry. I'm talking out of turn. It's New Caney and Porter high schools that are part, and that's East Montgomery County.
Correct.
It isn't Porter, even though it's Porter High School.
Right.
Okay. All right. So they have a program for the juniors and seniors. What programs do you have for training?
So training, we have a part-time deputy chief that is in charge of training. We also have a 3-story burn building where we can burn in all but 2 of the rooms where we can simulate fires. We also we can repel off the building. We can do confined space. It's been an invaluable tool for us where we've been able to do training, and we also rent that out to other fire departments. We've had Huffman, Magnolia, East Montgomery County before they built theirs. We've had South Montgomery County. We've had a whole host of fire departments come out and use our facilities, and then we've also done joint trainings with the East Montgomery County Fire Department and South Montgomery County, our mutual aid partners. And even the Precinct 4 Constables Special Response Team uses our building for their special response training, similar to SWAT training, but it's called Special Response Teams.
Okay, well, I want to switch now to a little bit about 4th of July, since that's upcoming. What do both of you see as some of the biggest challenges of the 4th of July?
Well, from the fire marshal's office, obviously the big the elephant in the room is fireworks, and fireworks are a major source of enjoyment for many people on the 4th of July and New Year's, but they're also a great source of consternation among neighbors, especially in some of our more crowded neighborhoods. We have a lot of folks that have moved from areas, for example, like the city of Houston, where fireworks were not allowed. They're not used to having them. They've moved out into the country. They now have animals. Those are some of the problems we're seeing. The biggest number one complaint is the anxiety for our pets, our livestock. Every year we see those issues. Horses are injured, dogs are lost. We spend several days afterwards, a lot of folks do, trying to locate lost dogs that have run off.
Who helps with that when the animals get lost?
I can tell you that my experience has been it's everybody on board, the animal shelter, constables. There's lots of lost pet sites. There's some very good sites that go off of mapping, where you can actually go on, pull up an interactive map. You can file a lost pet report, and you can look and see what animals are lost or have been found in an area. So that's worked real well. We've had some success. We try to direct people to those. We get a lot of questions about that every year. And again, that's a really big problem in our neighborhoods. Most of this could be solved if we would just work with our neighbors, take a little more consideration, let your neighbor know you're going to have that great big neighborhood fireworks show. Don't let them find out at 10 o'clock that night that you're going to have it. They don't have time to prepare. Give us time to, move those animals indoors. Some of the suggestions: play music, do something with the animals, some type of noise to drown out the fireworks. Because you need that distraction, because everyone knows, their animals are affected, and they know in advance. If they have time to prepare, it kind of lessens the impact somewhat.
Yeah. That would be a concern. I have lots of large animals at my house, and I actually hadn't thought about that because we live in more of a rural area with the longhorns and the horses and the donkeys, and I know
they don't do well with loud noises, and then barbed wire fences are a bad combination. And every year we feel complaints that someone's animal was injured, typically a horse, cattle as well, but that's a big concern for folks. And that's just one aspect of it. And then of course there's the fires and the injuries. Each year we continue to see some fires. Typically a typical season will have anywhere from 1 to maybe a half dozen injuries around the county. Most of them are fairly minor, but each year we have a couple of serious injuries that require transport to a hospital, maybe to a burn unit. We've seen those. Some common factors are age. We look at children anywhere from 5 to 9 are probably the largest group of children that we see.
Why are people allowing them to handle the fireworks?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. That kind of leads into the next part of it. The most at-risk group we see is ages 5 to 9, and then nationally statistics tell us that 10 to about 19 are the next, most dangerous group. Most males are involved. It's about 68% of the fireworks injuries are adults or teenage, adolescent males. That kind of goes with common sense. But then we have a lot of other injuries that are innocent victims. One of the things that we see commonly is alcohol's involved. And what do we talk about with fireworks? It's very important to have good supervision. We want to have good adult supervision. Let's throw another word in there: sober adult supervision.
Yeah. If they're not sober, they're not really supervising.
I can tell you that on our significant, serious ones that require transport by life flight or an ambulance to a hospital, you can almost bet that there's going to be alcohol involved in most of those incidents. A poor decision was made, and that's what leads to those fireworks injuries.
So, is it legal in our county to have fireworks? I know we see stands up right now all over. And what is the time frame that they're allowed to sell the fireworks?
Well, they're allowed to sell. They're up now, and they're up to July 4th. They will be able to sell through midnight. And you can buy fireworks, you can possess fireworks, you can discharge fireworks anywhere in the county in an unincorporated area. Some of the areas that you can't, obviously the city of Conroe. If you live in like the city of Magnolia or Montgomery, check and make sure what their regulations are. The Woodlands prohibits fireworks discharged within the Woodlands itself. So those are some of the areas where fireworks are prohibited.
Are they allowed in Porter?
They are allowed in Porter, but not inside the city of Houston. So there's parts of my service area that are right against the city of Houston.
Kingwood, yes.
Correct.
Good example. You've got to be really cognizant. And the answer that I give folks is, well, can I shoot off fireworks? I said, where do you live? Well, I'm just going to shoot them off somewhere. Is that your property? No. Then you shouldn't be shooting off fireworks on somebody else's property. You should know if your property is in the city of Houston, if it's in the city of Conroe. You should know that you have permission, that you can shoot fireworks off on that property. You shouldn't be just shooting it off in some neighbor's field. And, again, be a considerate neighbor. Let the folks next door that have, a good example I can give you, a quick story of one is a New Year's Eve fireworks show that went off at midnight without telling the neighbor next door, just 150 feet away, that had a horse operation. Several horses in stalls, quite a bit of damage was done. One horse got injured. Those are the sorts of problems we see. And again, a little bit of consideration ahead of time of your neighbors can take care of a lot of those problems in advance.
So the city trumps the county as far as what's right, what's legal.
Yes.
The own city can trump whatever's going on in the county.
And here's an important thing to think about, too, is you want to be careful traveling through the city. The city of Houston, city of Conroe, for example, you can't possess fireworks in the city. So you can't buy them and then travel through the city and discharge them in your vehicle. So you can't be out there with them. So that's something to be considered and where you're going to purchase your fireworks. If you're going out into the country to shoot fireworks, purchase those fireworks near that location where you don't have to travel through a municipality. Some of the other things we see every year, some common issues, discharging fireworks from a motor vehicle. That's a criminal offense anywhere in the state of Texas.
That kind of sounds a little wild and dangerous.
It can get dangerous. We have been out on fireworks patrol and actually had someone shoot them at us while we're out in the neighborhood. So you see that sometimes. They just drive around every year. Someone is driving around in a neighborhood shooting them out of a vehicle. A lot of times alcohol is involved as well. Next thing you know, law enforcement's involved, and it can get real serious real quick. So,
well, we have just a couple minutes before we have to take a break, but I wanted to ask you, is there a fine for illegal use of fireworks in our county?
It depends. Now, in the city of Conroe, it's a city ordinance, and I believe it's currently up to $2,000, so it's significant. If you violate any of the other state laws regarding fireworks, discharging from motor vehicles, or in others, quite a few. I encourage anyone to go and look on the web. They can look on our website. It's generally a Class C misdemeanor up to $500.
And your website is MCTX, and then they go to the top header where it talks about public safety. MCTX.org, sorry.
I'll give you a real easy one. We've got an MCTX.org/fire.
Oh.
Takes you right there.
There you go. Okay, well, we will be back shortly, and this first half of EMC News is sponsored by Neighbors Emergency Clinic. When emergencies happen, trust your best neighbors for extraordinary emergency care 24/7, 354 days of the year with no wait. We'll be right back.
Animals of all shapes and sizes are welcomed at Big Thicket Vet in New Caney with vet services like extensive health exams, vaccinations, heartworm, tick, flea prevention, along with experienced and trustworthy emergency and urgent care. For more information on Big Thicket Vet in New Caney, visit bigthicketvetnc.com or locally at 18403 FM 1485 in New Caney, Texas.
Hello, I'm Margie Taylor, and this is EMC News, broadcast live from downtown Conroe, Lone Star Community Radio. A podcast will be available on Wednesday of this show, so be sure and go to Facebook.com/EMC News to find the podcast, or irlonestar.com/EMCN to find the podcast from this show and other shows. So also we're on Facebook, so make sure and check us out. We have things related to whatever's going on in East Montgomery County. So we are back here with Fire Chief Carter Johnson of the Porter Fire Department and Jimmy Williams of the Montgomery County Fire Marshal. So we were talking about 4th of July and fireworks. What are some other fire hazards for the 4th of July?
Well, one of the things that we see every year, grilling incidents. We have accidents involving, cooking outdoors. That's a big. Memorial Day is another one we see it as well, and Labor Day is a big one during the summer season. About 16,000 emergency room visits a year from cooking fires. Quite a few.
Just in our county?
No, in the United States.
Oh,
so
okay.
just throw some.
I was saying, Lord.
Cooking, number one cause of fire in America today. When you look at that. Again, like nationally, over 16,000 visits to emergency rooms from cooking-related injuries. Typically what we see, some of the problems with grilling, we have a grill that's too close to a home, especially if it's using charcoal on a wooden deck, those sorts of things. Some of the tips, an easy tip, go down to the local big box store, pick up a grilling mat. If you have a charcoal grill, and put that grilling mat underneath there on your wood deck. That way, if there's some ash, as your grill gets older and it rusts, you'll start getting some coals fall out. What's dangerous about these fires, and we see these around all over the county, we see them around Lake Conroe as well. These fires can erupt on a deck several hours after you've cooked, and that fire can get going and be very large and then enter the home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And where are you? You're asleep.
Scary.
You're asleep in bed.
So have you gone to some of those fires caused by decks that have burned from grilling and things like that?
Yeah, yes, we have. We actually had a fire that was in a neighborhood that really kicked off our smoke detector program, where it was they leaning towards a grill fire that was on the deck.
Yeah, and we have one of our recent grill fatalities. We had a fatality fire in the Lake Conroe area that was just that. Started out grilling, cooking. The back deck was on fire, unbeknownst to them. Went in, fell asleep, and a large fire started. And the problem is, it's outside. It gets lots of oxygen. It gets a really good start, and then it burns in. Apartment complexes typically, you'll see, for example, our fire code that we use in the county prohibits the use of large gas grills and any type of wood burning or charcoal grills on balconies and patios of apartment complexes. That's a big problem. That's a management problem. In a lot of places, management struggles to keep those off the deck, but we work with them quite a bit because that's a major source of our fires in apartments, condominiums, townhouses. We see people trying to grill, and typically, again, you'll have an accident. Maybe you have a leak from your propane tank, and it gets very large. Fire can burn the complex down in just a matter of minutes. And now you're talking about not just a single-family home, but you're endangering dozens of lives throughout the building.
So is that part of code enforcement? When you go around, do you check apartments to see if they have these grills outside on the patio? And what exactly is code enforcement?
Well, that's a part of what we do. We're basically split into two divisions with the Fire Marshal's Office, and our investigation division does just that. We investigate the cause of fires and explosions. We do that across the county. All jurisdictions, except for the city of Conroe, has their own fire marshal, but we assist them, and they assist us on large fires as well. We do any type of explosive incidents. We work on that. Our inspection division is basically code enforcement, plans review of all new construction. We do complaint inspections. For example, just like we're talking about here, an existing apartment complex, we would work with the management. We've got to find a way to resolve that. Most of the time what we find is the lease agreement itself has those prohibitions in there. So,
so they know.
It's
they
a simple matter. Yes,
may have forgotten.
Enforce that lease agreement.
Right.
And, we've seen some where they've had to go to the point of evicting someone because they continued to barbecue, and they eventually started a fire on a balcony. So a very dangerous fire, and it's a very common cause in the summertime because you get a lot of people out of town. They come in, maybe they rent a condo or a townhouse for the weekend, and then they buy a cheap barbecue grill. They use it. It's not as good as they thought. Next thing you know, we have a deck on fire at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and again, a very dangerous fire.
That's why it's so important to have working smoke detectors inside your residence. Through our outreach in Porter, we've given away over 300 smoke detectors this year, and I feel that we've barely made a dent in our community with smoke detectors.
So if somebody needs a smoke detector and cannot afford one or know how to put it in, will you assist them?
Correct. So Porter Fire Department, East Montgomery County Fire Department will gladly come out to your house and install a working smoke detector inside your house. This year, we switched to the 10-year smoke detector, where once you install it, it lasts for 10 years, and after 10 years, you dispose of it. No changing the batteries.
Wow.
What we found out is we were putting the 6-month smoke detectors in, and they were great for the first 6 months, but after that, the resident didn't put the batteries back in, or they removed them. So now we switched to the 10-year smoke detectors.
I hadn't heard of that. That's awesome.
We started pushing that real strong, and an interesting aside of that, in 2007, we had a fatal fire in the River Plantation subdivision. And what we found was typical of what we find in almost all of our fatal fires. 90% of the homes have a smoke detector in them somewhere, but only about 2/3 of them actually have working batteries. So as many as 30% of them just don't work because the batteries are dead or missing. We had a fatal fire in River Plantation in 2007. There were several smoke detectors, no batteries, and an elderly male passed away from smoke inhalation from a fire, basically a smoking fire in a chair. Flash forward 9 years later, our most recent fatal fire, River Plantation, the same house. No working smoke detector in that home still. So it's a big problem throughout our county, and it's a very common factor. By just taking if you can't afford that smoke detector, contact us, contact your local fire station, get some help. By putting a working smoke detector in your house and keeping it working, you cut your chance of dying in a fire by half right there with just that one simple move.
Yeah. Through one of the outreach programs, when we respond to your call for your house for a medical call, if time allows, we actually try to check the smoke detectors before we leave, and we if they don't have a working smoke detector, we'll install it if time permits while we're on scene.
That's good to know. So you do a little safety inspection. I'll just kind of visual, check it out real quick while you're there.
Right. Well, typically respond with an engine company has 4 people on board, and if it's not a call that requires all 4, some of that other crew is peeling off and checking the smoke detectors and either providing batteries or replacing the whole smoke detector.
And we get a lot of referrals. We call them from the fire departments. They're out making the calls. They're in the homes. They know if there's an invalid, for example, or someone who's bedridden with a serious medical condition. And if that person doesn't have a working smoke detector, if there's a serious safety problem, we're getting those phone calls, we're following up, and we're working with them. And that's a very good way that we can kind of do double duty as firefighters. We're in that home, we're taking care of that medical emergency, but we can look around, what can we do? Why is that important? When you talk about senior citizens and children under 4 times as likely to die in a home fire in the United States today. Elderly are very, very high risk fire victims, as well as small children. That goes back to 2 things. Having those working smoke detectors, watch those cooking fires, very common factor in elderly home deaths. Have a home escape plan even if you do have smoke detectors, you got to know what to do with those children under 4 when they go off.
And then stay outside.
Right, go immediately outside. Well, we're going to take another little break, and then I want to ask you a couple questions about arson investigations. How often do you go out there? Do you work in the whole county? How that works? And a few questions to you, Chief Carter, about your new officer position and how that's helping people in Montgomery County, in East Montgomery County. Okay, we'll be right back. This is Margie Taylor, East Montgomery County News.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, and we are looking for talk show hosts and volunteer DJs for our music shows. Are you interested in having your own talk show on Lone Star, or have you always wanted to live out your dreams of being a music DJ? With the addition of Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and video aspects of our talk shows, we are needing people to grow with us. If you or someone you know might be interested, please contact us online at irlonestar.com/contact us, or call the station at 936-647-5747 for more information.
Hello, this is Margie Taylor, and I want to remind you that we are always looking for sponsors and guests for our show. So give me a call, Margie, at 936-828-6881, or go to irlonestar.com/EMCN for additional information. So we are talking to Jimmy Williams, Fire Marshal of Montgomery County, and Chief Carter Johnson of Porter Fire Department about fire prevention and reminders for the 4th of July, because they have a lot of things that happen on the 4th of July. We touched on things you need to kid in the presence of your mind about animals shooting off fireworks, and not animals shooting off fireworks.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That would be real interesting. But taking care of our pets and surrounding neighbors that have pets when we shoot off fireworks, and grilling hazards, and even about smoke detectors and how the importance of that. I didn't know they had smoke detectors that now last for 10 years. That would be something I think we all need to have. So, did you know that the Montgomery County Fire Marshal does arson investigations? Can you tell me a little bit about that, Jimmy?
Yes. Our personnel that are assigned to our investigation division, they're all certified by the state of Texas, and they're expert witnesses certified in the district courts, and they conduct arson investigations. We investigate any structure fire in Montgomery County in the unincorporated areas. We also investigate the structure fires in most of the smaller cities. We assist them as well. And our investigators will go out, much like a detective, a homicide detective. They look at the scene the same way. They photograph it, sketch it, examine the evidence, determine the cause of the fire. In many cases, it's an accidental fire. We prepare a report. That report is the basis for the homeowner being made whole by their insurance company, or if it's a business, for them to get their insurance paid as quickly as possible. And in some cases, if they don't have insurance, it's necessary. They can use that to report that on their income. That can actually be a deduction for uninsured losses like that. So, but then when it's a criminal case, we open up a criminal investigation. And our officers are all peace officers. And then
that was going to be my next question. You're more than just a fire officer, and you're not just a police officer. You're kind of combo of both,
If
right?
you look at it, it's kind of like the way I started. You start out as a firefighter.
Okay.
And the way I was told when I got in this business is how you learn is you look at fires, and you look at fires, and you look at fires. The more you see, the more you understand how they start and what are the factors associated with that. So we take someone, generally a seasoned firefighter, someone who's done that for a while. We can give them the detective training, the arson investigation training, and then we start working them into that process. And it's an experience process. It's based on science. It's much more based on science today than it ever has been. There's been a lot of challenges to arson investigation in general, because here in Texas especially, because you're eligible for the death penalty if you use arson to commit a felony crime. So, a lot of folks that otherwise might not be opposed to it in general are opposed to some of the things because of the death penalty opposition as well. So we've seen that the arson industry, arson investigation in general, has come under a much greater scrutiny over the last several years. So we're held to a very high standard. When we go to court, it's very easy for our expert witness to be, contradicted, or in many cases, defense expert witness will countermand some of the points that we've made. So we have to be up on our game. We have to be current on our training and education, and it's an ongoing basis.
So you're employed through the county. Is that Commissioner's Court?
Yes.
Or how does that work? Okay.
Yes. The Commissioner's Court, I'm not an elected official per se like a constable. Commissioner's Court has appointed a department head, and then our agency, we do, again, the code enforcement and fire investigation throughout the unincorporated areas, and that also includes the woodlands.
So are you seeing a drop or an increase in the amount of arson investigations you have to do?
I think in general our numbers have remained fairly steady over the past few years. We're seeing a little bit of an increase each year, but I attribute that mostly to not that there's a spike in crime, but there's a spike in activity. There's a spike in the number of people. When I started out, for example, in the fire marshal's office, we had a population of somewhere around a couple of 250,000 people. Now, depending on who you talk to, we're close to 550, 600,000.
Like 550,000.
So obviously you would expect those numbers to increase.
Right.
And
more people.
For the most part, what we see is our accidental fires have also kind of increased as the population grows. So you're going to see a smaller increase. I think in arson, it depends on the economy, and a lot of times when you have a bad economy, you tend to have more criminal activity sometimes. So we see a spike. Some fires are related to insurance, so we do see some insurance fraud fires from time to time. Years ago in the 80s, when we had our first oil boom and bust in Montgomery County, is pretty much where our office got started. We had one investigator at the time, and in the mid-'80s, in 1 year, they saw 250 arson fires in 1 year during the middle of the oil bust. So it was a very busy time when there wasn't enough resources. So we've seen those numbers, with a better economy over the last few years. We see lots of different causes for arson fires. Generally the big ones are spite and revenge. Someone's angry. A bad deal, something went wrong.
The ultimate revenge,
yes.
I think.
And that's some of the things. And it's really not much different than the motivation you see behind a lot of other criminal activity.
Yeah.
Anger at someone, a perceived injustice, or a financial motive. All of those play into, just like any other criminal activity you would see, play into the arson as well.
Yeah. So, fires. Chief, tell me, you have now initiated a new position. How has that helped you control fires, or how has that helped you in your job with Porter Fire Department with your new battalion chief position?
So recently we conducted a battalion chief's test, and we had 3 individuals that passed the test, and then now they are running the day-to-day fire. So if there is a fire at your residence, you will have a battalion chief show up, and that is really the director of the operations at that fire. They're telling the fire crews where to place the lines and really manage the scene overall. And they've been very successful at that. We're very fortunate. We have some very talented individuals that work for Porter Fire Department, and made my job as the fire chief much easier.
It's a lot of stress. So if you have another line of officers to help you, it helps alleviate a little of that, I'm assuming.
Correct.
So you also do mutual aid.
So one of the questions we get is Porter Fire Department or any Montgomery County Fire Department, if it gets to the next level, what happens? So here in Montgomery County, we have a mutual aid system through the Montgomery County Fire Chiefs Association. Most of us belong to what's called the Houston-Galveston Area Council, HGAC. So we have a mutual aid agreement. So if there's a large, let's say, grass and woods fire started by fireworks, we can call in all Montgomery County Fire Departments and start sending resources to it. And that's all predefined. I don't have to pick up the phone call and say, hey, Chief in Magnolia, can you send me some trucks? It's already pre-done. I just ask for the next 2 boosters, and then the next 2 ones show up. And then if it expands beyond Montgomery County, we get into the regional, which is the HGAC region. So we can call in Harris County, Fort Bend County, depends on where you are. And then if it hits the next level, we're involved in what's called the Texas Fire Interstate Mutual Aid System, which is across the state of Texas. Recently, we've been to our most recent deployment that Porter Fire Department, Needham Fire Department, and Willis We went to Deweyville during the floods. We were there for a week.
Where's Deweyville?
Deweyville is in East Texas, outside of the Beaumont area, close to the Louisiana border.
Okay.
They were there during the flood response, and we provided apparatus. Montgomery County had units there for a little over 2 weeks. We were there for a week, but Willis, North Montgomery County was there for a week, and I believe Needham was there for a week also. And then we've been to Bastrop during the big Bastrop fires. We were there twice.
How long ago was that?
We did
5 years?
2011, and then we did Bastrop again, I think 2 years ago. And then we've also been to Ozona and Lost Pines.
Ozona is pretty darn far.
We've been far west Texas. You're talking 15 or 10-hour drives just to get the crews there. Crews typically stay a week or up to 2 weeks there, and it's a great system. Not only does the residents of that area get additional fire service, but the firefighters here in Montgomery County get a chance to see some large fires that hopefully we'll never see in Montgomery County. But it gives us the chance to to experience them, and then the state of Texas makes the organization whole. So our firemen get overtime, and then the state of Texas pays us back for that, and they also rent the apparatus from us. So we're due back in that.
Yeah, the local taxpayers don't pay.
Yeah, the local taxpayers don't pay, and we've been recently awarded a grant for a vehicle. So in August we will be picking up at no charge to local taxpayers, another booster truck for the Porter Fire Department that we can use anywhere in the state of Texas.
And it gets paid back. We saw that in Magnolia in 2011. We activated the TIFMA system, the Fire Mutual Aid system, and we had units come from all across Texas to assist us. So it's not just a one-way street. It's a really good way to have additional resources available without having to put that burden on local taxpayers.
Right.
In those
and
areas.
It's already in place.
It's in place.
Something should happen in emergency.
They typically will
just
send
gets
folks
going.
from, like, when they had the flood event, they sent folks from an area that weren't flooding at the moment. When they have a fire, they'll send folks from other parts of the states where they're not having fires.
Well, I want to round up back to 4th of July, and there is one event in East Montgomery County on July 4th, and that's going to be at Roman Forest. We talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the show, but that is put on by the East Montgomery County firefighters, so they know what they're doing. And what can you tell me, any words of wisdom, gentlemen, about fireworks, 4th of July, any of that?
Well, let's start off with some fireworks fun facts. Over 10,000 emergency room visits for fireworks injuries. 41% by sparklers. Sparklers are the main cause of fireworks injuries. We have some deaths throughout the country every year from fireworks. So we see that July 4th, more fires are reported every year on July 4th than any other day of the year. Estimated 20,000 a year on July 4th.
And that's why I wanted you guys on the show to talk about this, actually.
So, busiest fire day of the year. We're fortunate we've had a little bit of rain, but that doesn't stop that errant firework from landing on your neighbor's house.
Things are still pretty dry out,
You
even
still
though
can
we've
have
had
a fire.
all that rain.
And we have fires every year. Be careful of spent fireworks. We've had them in garages where they gathered up the spent fireworks, put them in a garbage can, didn't realize they were still hot. There's a number of problems. What we would encourage everybody to do is take in one of the many public displays, leave it to the professionals.
Such as the one at Roman Forest.
That's a good example. If you're in East Montgomery County, do that instead of consumer fireworks.
Well, this has been wonderful. I'm glad you both were here today, and I hope to have you on the show again. But it's especially relevant to 4th of July and fireworks because people think about fire at fireworks, 4th of July, getting together. So be cautious with your fireworks that you purchase from the booths. They can be fun, but be sober. Make sure you're not around your pets. Do not grill on your decks, and go have fun on the 4th of July. So today's show is sponsored by Big Thicket Veterinary Clinic in New Caney. Visit them for all your pet needs, big or small, including livestock. And think about your pets. We just mentioned them again. Monday, July 4th will be a repeat of today's show. I will be assisting at the annual Burn Your Buns bike ride for Bridgewood Farms, a nonprofit that's been serving the community since 1967 for adults and teens with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Have fun. Thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you again next Monday.
Thanks for checking out this production of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star Community Radio, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, TV, media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production produced by the show host and Dick Schischler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schischler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.